Hi. So, quick introduction. My name is Joseph. I'm a technical evangelist for Epic Games, and I manage the MENA region and Turkey. By the way, do you prefer I do it in English or in Arabic? Oh, okay. English, deal. So this is my email and Twitter account. If you need to reach me, well, that's basically it. A little bit about my background. I used to work on a VR game at Word Void as a technical designer. And I also teach game development at St. Joseph University in Beirut. And I manage the community in Lebanon, Lab Game Dev. I also been using Unreal for 6 years, and I joined Epic more than a year ago. So, okay, a brief history. So, back in the 80s, Tim Sweeney actually made it ZZT, which is one of the first few games. So that's even before Google existed. Whenever you have a game and you want to put it online, you would list it on a page. And people usually just name their game with A, so it'd be at the beginning of the list. But he decided to be way at the bottom, so that's why it's called ZZ, and then T for Tim. And even back then, to use C++, because it used to be C++ and object-oriented design, which just came out, because we were following all the trends, being on the latest technologies. And if we fast forward a bit later, like in the 90s, it's when Unreal Tournament came out. And with it came the Unreal Engine, the first one. It was one of the first engines to run on a graphic card, dedicated one. And then after, of course, came Gears of War, Infinity Blade on mobile in 2010, and eventually came Fortnite. So we have a long history of successful titles, all of them pushing the engine and us developing our own games. So right now, the company is still owned by Tim. He still makes all the decisions. He still has the majority shares of all the company, and basically what we want to do is we want to make a change. We want to push the ecosystem in game development, and we've done so in the past multiple times. So for example, when we were done with Paragon, we actually released the game assets, all of them for free for the community to use, and that was $12 million worth of assets for free. We changed the percentage on the marketplace to 12%. It used to be 30%, but not only that, we actually reimbursed everyone the 18% difference from the beginning till now. Fortnite was the first game to ever have cross-platform between PlayStation and Xbox, and there's just a long history of that you can find. So I'm going to start with Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is 24 years old, and it was released in 2014, and it's free. It was made free in 2015. So far, there's more than 7 million users, and 2 of them actually came in the last year. It's open source, so you can use the engine, you can change it. If you face a bug, you can fix it yourself. You can ask someone in the community. It's the exact same engine everyone have. And it's free, but there's a 5% royalty. And so the impact of Fortnite actually over Unreal, what happened was we had right now over 250 million players playing Fortnite. It also means we need to optimize Fortnite a lot to work on every single device. It needs to run to perfection, and every feature we have to do, we have a real life use case to actually test it on. So with the development, we actually had thousands of fixes. And we even had some presentation. You can find them at GDC or on YouTube channel, basically the one we gave at GDC, at Unreal Fest, another presentation on how we optimize Fortnite to look exactly the same on all devices and run perfectly. So right now Fortnite runs on Android, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and iOS. And this is how the game looks like on every device. And it's exactly the same project. We don't have different project for each platform. It's one project that's running on all platforms. So, so far, the way we're doing it, we're releasing 3 to 4 releases a year. So basically, it's not bug fixes. Of course, we do have those, but also we release new features and new tools for you to use in games because the technology is going really fast and we have to keep up with the market. But also, we have to make it easier for developers to make games. For example, 4.23 was released around like a few weeks ago. With it, in 4.22, we actually gave some ray tracing. That's when the ray tracing came out of experimental for people to use. So you have all the features, which is shadow reflection, ambient occlusion, etc. And we even added like a plugin for animation sharing. So in Fortnite, for example, we had millions of zombies on screen, and we needed to optimize all the animation to run easily on a device. And for that, we added the animation sharing plugin, which recently was released in 4.22. And for example, we changed a lot of stuff in how it works for compiling the code. So now to recompile the entire engine, it takes around, it's 350% faster to recompile everything. If you make a code, it's 30% faster. And if you just change a few lines, it's less than a few seconds to actually, almost a few seconds to actually compile everything with Live++. And that's because when we were working on Fortnite, we had to iterate a lot on the game, and developers just couldn't wait a lot of time for the code to compile every time. So we had to optimize it a lot. In 4.23, one of the major changes that we had other than a retracing improvement was Chaos, which is our new physics engine, and it can handle a lot of reflections. And the thing is, a lot of time in the industry, you find that existing technology become a bit outdated, so we decided to make our own solution, and this is why we had to do our own physics engine. I will show a demo in a bit, but first I want to also talk, there's also the virtual texturing and Unreal Insight, which I'll show a video as well. So this is Chaos. There's some audio, but it's not important, so it's fine. Basically, I just want to show some destructions. So
recall agent has been dispatched.
Okay, Agent 38, it's Renegade recall time. I'm not even sure we hit that one. Good thing it's a bank holiday. She's getting away. Activate rocket boost and get after her. I'm compensating for your lack of skill with higher caliber weaponry. She's on the move again. Get after her. Let's see her teleport out of that one. Now would be a good time to figure out what that thing actually does. Oh, that's not good. On the bright side, you've been approved for mandatory overtime.
So, for example, now all the destruction you saw were made inside of Unreal, like fracturing the building itself, deciding which piece can actually fall and which piece will stay attached. All of that used in Unreal. We actually showed this demo at GDC. We'll keep working on the engine until we have support for everything, including vehicles, etc. And right now it is accessible. Anyone with the source code can actually just download Unreal and start experimenting with the engine itself. Also at the end, when the entire building falls, that's cached simulation. So not only you can actually do simulation in real time, but you can also cache it, and now you can run it on smaller devices, for example, and it's hybrid. So basically some of the pieces that you actually hit will just fall on the ground, simulate physics, while the other just play the cached animation. Okay, for ray tracing, so the first thing we're working on is the denoiser. So instead of using the default denoiser, we're working on our own, and if we do that, it means we can gain some frame rates in the gameplay. So now you can do more stuff with ray tracing. So the first time at GDC we showed ray tracing, we had like a device that cost around $50,000 with 5 GPUs from NVIDIA. And this year, the new demo we showed was running 4K 24 FPS on a single 2080 RTX. And yeah. So the visual texturing one, it's really interesting because now you can put giant textures inside of Unreal. And instead of using mipmap, which is it uses a lower resolution texture based on the distance, it will cut the texture into smaller pieces, and based on your distance, it won't load the entire texture. It's more of a hybrid solution. So actually there's a video, I'm trying to see if it plays. 1 second. It's actually on the left side. So basically, those squares you're seeing right now, this is how the texture. So at the end, you see like lower resolution one, and then right next to the camera, it's higher resolution. And you don't have to worry about memory management. So Unreal Insight is a way to actually know how your game is performing on multiple devices at once. So you have one computer, which is the server, and other computers running the game, and all of them are reporting how the performance on the game is running. So, okay, so this is the video. Now you can see exactly for each line of code running on your game on each device, how much the frame rate is, how much the performance consumption is, everything basically. You can record that session, you can debug it later. And now you can basically test easily your game on as many devices as you want. So the foliage tool that we had in Unreal, where you can paint grass before with it, now you can also paint anything basically, any actor, any blueprint. So even if you have a dynamic code, you can, an object basically, you can use the tool and paint with it. And the advantage of that is basically you can even move the landscape, and those actors will move with the landscape. So it's very dynamic as well. And it's highly performant. Another feature we added was exponential fog, which is dual exponential fog. We used to have one, and now you can put multiple ones. Like you can see in the distance there's one, and one for the lower areas, and you can pick different colors and different densities. And this is just a small list of some of the features added just in the latest release. Anyway, so basically, the Epic ecosystem, which is we succeed when you succeed, and we try to reflect that with everything. Like, for example, the thing we do with the engine, which is 5%, it's like a partnership. So if you don't succeed, we don't make anything, and this is why it's more, we're in it with you. And you can use Unreal for free if you want to learn, if you want to do some demos, some prototype, basically, and you don't charge anything unless you get the game to the market. So to help you actually release that game and succeed, we released the program Epic Mega Grants, which is a 100 million fund. And if you're making a game in Unreal, there's actually multiple categories. Like, let me show you, 1 second. Yes, so if you're making a game, if you're making movies or anything related to media entertainment, architecture, for example, if you're working in education, you want to teach people to code or anything else, or if you actually doing anything open source, like a recent example would be how we sponsored the Blender with it. And it's basically like a grant. So we just give you the money, we don't want anything in return, and we just want to help you to succeed. And you can apply by going to Unreal Engine/Mega Grant. Okay, so there's also the store. Like, you know, the percentage right now on the market is 30%, which is the standard for a regular store. And it used to make sense before when the store used to provide publishing services, but now with the store becoming oversaturated, it doesn't work anymore. And for developers, that 30% can be a lot, so that's why we released the store with 12%. And one of the main differences is that you control your page. So you can control how you rate your the review section, if you want to show it at the beginning, or maybe you want to hide it the first few weeks because maybe you want enough people to buy the game first and have proper reviews before actually putting it publicly. There's no one suggesting other game on your page, so it's completely your page. You can control it. And it's open to all engines. So if you're using Unity, Unreal, GameMaker, Cocos, anything, you can post the game there. Now, it is at the beginning a bit heavily curated because right now we're still growing the user base. And at this point, we're just selecting games to make sure we have the market share. So that way, everyone who's releasing on the game will have users to buy their game and they can succeed as well. So the store actually launched last year, so it's only been a year. And the user base has been growing exponentially ever since. And eventually, we plan to open it to everyone. So. There's, for example, multiple programs to actually even help you market your game, like support a creator. So we partnered with a lot of YouTubers and Twitch live streamers, and they basically what they can do, they can get a link of your game inside of the store, and they get a commission for every game they sell, which is about 5% by default. You can increase it for each streamer if you want, and even Epic pays the first 5% right now for the first year of anyone using that service. Okay, so there's also the marketplace. What if you're a small team or you're one person, you don't have time to finish an entire game and ship it, but you're a very good artist or a programmer and you can work on a single feature? You can actually make a living out of the marketplace. You can put your asset there. 1 second. Great. So there's over 9,000 products and around 2,300 sellers. And it's also growing rapidly. All the content is being checked by people from Epic, so we open every asset to make sure it's high quality, it follows the norms and everything, and it goes back to the store. And we have multiple sales around the year. And also, every once in a while, we release free content for people to use in the game as well. So this is I mentioned before when we reduce the percentage to 12%. And yeah, so the sponsored content is basically we select a few content from the marketplace and we offer the creators to actually reimburse them for everyone who downloads their game and download their project basically. And every month we pick 5 assets and anyone can go to the marketplace, they can claim them and they will keep them forever basically. And they're high quality assets, so now you have more enough content to actually make any game you want. And this is in addition to all the free content we release, like the Paragon asset, Infinity Blade, and all the demos we have. And also there's a lot of content becoming permanently free as well. So yeah, if you want to apply, This is the link, and yeah, you can get started in becoming a marketplace creator. So we also have our own conference called Unreal Fest, and it's highly technical. So basically, we talk to studios in Europe and the US making bigger projects in Unreal, and we ask them to give a talk and share some of the challenges they're facing. So last year we had 900 people. It was in Prague. The ticket was around 250 euros, but it included also the hotel, the dinners, the breakfast, everything. So you only had to cover your flight. And this is, by the way, those two developers are from Lebanon, so I was happy to see someone from the Middle East other than me going to that conference. It is really a good conference, and if you have any technical questions, I would highly recommend you go there, because a lot of developers and people from Epic will be there. And we also announced the speaker opening for 2020, so to keep in mind. We also have the meetup groups. So, for example, whenever I'm in the region, I try to go to one of the meetup group, give a presentation, but it's actually organized by the local community. There's one in Jordan, actually, on Tuesday. They're going to do a meetup at PSUT. You're more than welcome to go. To find a meetup near you, just go to meetup.com/pro/Unreal Engine. There's one in Saudi Arabia. There's one in Lebanon. There's in basically multiple locations around the Middle East. We also have a game jam for films, not just for games. So if you're making game architecture or films, anything, there's a game jam for you. If you're making games, there's also another one. We also have Unreal Present, where in certain countries, when the communities start growing, we start organizing our own event where we invite publishers, we invite the developers, and we put them in touch. And we support developers at conferences, we sponsor them. We sponsored their booths, like at GDC, for example. We sponsored the flight, the cost, and the booth, and we just brought developers to show their game. And we did the same at multiple conferences. And actually, one of the games that is actually from Lebanon went to, what was the conference? Indigo, actually. So this is the video from that game. So again, if you're making a game in Unreal, reach out. If there's an opportunity, I will let you know. And we also have the live streams where we have a lot of, we cover all the new added features. We highlight you on social media. We can retweet your game if you want. We organize mixers, evening, and we're very well connected. So we know a lot of publishers, a lot of people in the region. If you have any questions about people you want to work with or some advice, you can always reach out to me on my email. Also, if you're a student, we have sizzle reels. Every year we release a video of all the project done by student, which you can basically send us a link and we'll select some of them and make a video out of them. And finally, Unreal is actually used outside of games. So in the automotive industry, architecture, we have an entire tool set for that. For virtual production, I want to show a small video. Oh, this is, for example, in a concert where they used Unreal for interactive graphics. So as people were dancing, they were changing the graphic on stage. The DJ was controlling all the graphics, the mood, the environment in real time. A lot of movies also being made inside of the engine. So yeah, one second. This video is not playing. Anyway, and it's also a lot of our partners are helping us push the engine in that department. There's an entire presentation on use of Unreal in enterprise because it's a very advanced tool set for that. Like the augmented reality on television, how the news person can actually interact with the graphics behind him. How they use it in pre-planning in movies, and some shots in certain movies are also used in Unreal. And yeah, so eventually we see the architecture industry and the movie industry and game industry all converge into one point where it's easily to switch between all of them. So you know how to use Unreal, you can work in movies or you can work on games. And yeah, to get started, you can go to Unreal Engine, download all the games, and GitHub for the source code, the documentation. There's also Unreal Academy and our YouTube channel. Okay. So that's everything, and thank you. This is my email and Twitter account. If you need to reach me, that's basically it. Thank you.